You've just tuned in to the nexus of inspiring, encouraging, and uplifting leaders who share their successes and their failures. Insights that will motivate, cultivate, educate, and illuminate your path to a very bright future. Welcome to Shaping the Future podcast. Here's your host, Gregg Kell.
Good day, Future Shapers. This is Gregg, and today we're going to meet Scott Welsh of Welsh Insurance Services in Redlands, California. Tell us, Scott, a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Scott Welsh, and I am the co-owner of Welsh Insurance Services Inc., which is a health insurance agency that specializes in Medicare insurance and helps people when they make the transition from retirement or when they're turning 65 into Medicare health fields.
Excellent. So you really help people with their security, their health, and their peace of mind that they can have going forward.
That's a great way to put it. In fact, peace of mind is exactly what we say to folks. Medicare can be very confusing and complex, even for people with the highest degree of education. And we have found that authors of books and doctors and lawyers and administrators at hospitals and medical clinics, they still don't really understand how Medicare works. And so we really help unclutter all of the information that is provided people when they turn 65 and help them have a peace of mind and a security knowing that their insurance is going to continue and they're covered and that there are no surprises in costs.
Excellent. Security and peace of mind. Those are excellent outcomes. Scott, we at the Future Shapers are passionate about entrepreneurship and especially innovation, being drivers of higher productivity, profits, and growth in our country. Tell me, Scott, what are you most passionate about today?
Well, here's one of the things that I have. I was in advertising for 25 years, and one of the things that we found that we're most passionate about is truly helping people on a one-on-one basis and building a relationship with people that, there is a lot of technology available to streamline services and processes and to be able to help people do things faster. Well, we are passionate about really helping people on a one-on-one basis. We still want to be that service that is available to somebody at no cost and be a neutral provider of information and answers so that people do really feel that security. So we're really passionate about our customer service aspect and being available for our clients. And that means that we have to streamline what goes on behind the scenes. And so that we can be available to talk to people when they need us and to give them thorough and thoughtful answers to help unlock. And sometimes, it's sort of like the David and Goliath and the beneficiary, the Medicare beneficiary or the insurance beneficiary is Davy, and the big insurance companies in Medicare is Goliath. And so we sort of help them in between those two and answer their questions directly. We go to fight for them. We go to battle for them with the insurance companies if necessary. We answer questions through Medicare, and we help put them in a place that they feel more comfortable and safe and secure with their insurance.
Comfort and security. That's a challenge. I would imagine that the average person, they'll feel overwhelmed. They could feel like they don't know. They could feel insecure because there's so much changes that are going on. Tell me, Scott, when did you start Welsh Insurance Services?
Well, actually, my wife, Sarah, started this in 2010. And she got her insurance license while I was still employed in advertising, working for a large radio station company. And she got her insurance license and became involved through an agency that specialized in benefits and in retirement insurance, and found out that they weren't as honest and forthright as she required and as we required to have high ethical standards. So she decided to go on her own And so we were in contact with a different agency that's turned out to be a tremendous asset. And we found a space that's next door to the Social Security Administration, the former Social Security Administration in Redlands. And she started her own shop, started doing it part-time on her own. And then I joined her 5 years ago in 2013. And so we're going on our 5th year together this year.
Excellent. 5 years in the hunt. Tell me, Scott, life sometimes throws us a curveball. Things don't turn out the way that we think that they will. Tell us a short story about the worst experience you have overcome as the leader of Welsh Insurance Services.
Well, with Welsh Insurance Services, I think truly it is that what we do is we educate people on how Medicare works, and then we work with many and different companies. And so we really truly have to do a tremendous amount of training and education in order to provide a really unbiased opinion. And one of the things that was probably a worst case scenario was that there was a client who did not was not able to have their insurance connected in a timely fashion because they weren't communicated to by the carrier that we worked with. So we really had to work extra hard behind the scenes to get that carrier to communicate and to make sure the client was written on the date that they had applied for. And so, which makes sense in the overall. However, without our intervention, that couldn't have happened. The client would have been left out and without coverage when they truly needed it. So many people come to us that have extenuating healthcare issues, and they need their coverage to start now. They can't afford for there to be a gap between their insurance coverage to be able to see a doctor. And so we need to make sure that is. So we were able to take this, failure in that where we enrolled a client who didn't get the start date that they wanted to. And we overcame that with being a little tenacious behind the scenes with the carrier that wanted to disenroll this client, didn't want them to start. And we learned to be able to use some assets that we didn't know were available to us and get some bigger entities involved.
And there you have it, Future Shapers. Communication, tenacity, and hand-holding. That sounds like pretty good basic business values. Good job. What lessons did you learn from this experience?
For one, we learned that we need to have strong communication with the people that we work with and expectations, and a list of expectations on how they communicate with our clients. Because if you walk in my door and you apply for a plan that's going to start the 1st of next month, and that's your expectation, I need to make sure that the company that we're working with is able to communicate that properly, and that we set up expectations properly with our clients. I think that is, an important lesson that we learned out of that. And then, sometimes you have to look at what the legal expectations are for companies to work with an individual client.
So it sounds like clarity and reasonable expectations of fostering in the minds of your customers.
That's right.
Excellent. So tell me, how did this unusual experience help you to become the success that you are today?
Well, what I think it did was that, we learned that we play an integral role in working directly with a client when they're working with a large entity like Medicare and some of the carriers that are worldwide companies, nationwide companies, that they have a voice, that they still have someone, a person, a real person, a live person, which is waning in our society today. If you call any insurance carrier today, you're likely to talk to a machine first and not a real person. You can call me 7 days a week and I'll return your call. And I think that, the takeaway from that is that we can play a role in between both David and Goliath, and that we have an important role to play for our clients, and that we can get things done. And we learned a way to communicate with the larger carrier entity in order to be able to make those things happen, to be able to pull the assets and the levers at the large company necessary to get the right function for our client.
So it sounds like your business is based on solid relationships where you understand your strengths, in this case, that communicating and representing your client among the big carriers, but you also understand the concerns, the fears, the lack of peace of mind that your customers have if you don't follow through, if you don't do your job. That's an excellent model.
Thank you.
Scott, we are at the beginning of a brand new year. 2018 is right here upon us. When you look into 2018, what is your most important goal?
Well, we've entered into a new realm for us in that we're helping to manage some other agents that are new to the business. So our goal would be to properly educate them and to get them to be self-sufficient, for them to be able to create business on their own. And I think if we can do that, we'll be successful. And that's our primary goal for this year.
There you have it, Future Shapers. Welsh Insurance Services is a growing firm here in Southern California. Outstanding. Tell me, what are some of the biggest challenges that you're facing now?
Well, some of them are some of the unknowns from our current federal government, and then current administration and what their views are, with Medicare. Medicare is not, it's one of the entitlements that is, Medicare money is your money. You've contributed that your whole life. If you've been working, there are very few people who are not required to pay Medicare tax, and so with that's your money. So there are trillions of dollars there. It's if there are any challenges that we face, it's the current administration's view on how the Medicare program will work.
Those kind of challenges are outside of your control.
That's true.
Are the things that are in your control that you see as challenges that are facing you now?
Yes, and great question, and I'm happy to answer that, because you're right. Because there are some things that, certain things that are out of your control and certain things that are in control. I'd say that things within our control are for us to become more efficient. As I stated earlier, I think the most important asset we have is our ability to help people, to speak to them, to be available to them. So therefore, we have to create more efficient systems within our own business so that we're not spending time online trying to get things done, that we're actually speaking to people. We're in front of employer groups and in front of different larger community entities to be able to share with them what we're capable of doing.
So it sounds like the efficient delivery of your high relationship service to the right kind of target prospective customers. Is that a good summary of what the challenges are that you're facing?
I think so. Internally, that sounds about right.
And when you look forward, what concerns do you have about your ability to overcome those challenges?
I think it is the ability to put together, many of our assets are the carriers that we work with, and the programs that they have available that communicate with the people we advise. So, the concerns that we have are that those assets are not too big. We recently went through a challenge with our own health insurance with a company that we've been involved with for many years, and we have a large group of people that we have put on a plan, and they weren't communicated that all their subscriber numbers changed. So in this first week of the year, they haven't been able to make doctor's appointments because they had their subscriber number changed, yet that wasn't communicated to them. And they showed up at the doctor's office and they were turned away. Those are challenges that we have that we've got to work through with many different companies.
And of course they call you and say, what happened?
Exactly.
They hold you responsible.
We're the answer people.
But Scott, you stand up to the plate and you help your customers.
That's right.
Again, relationship.
That's it.
How do you think you can overcome the challenge that you just faced?
I think by anticipating some of those changes, keeping lines of communication open with our partners who are at the carrier level, identifying the people that we can go to make things happen quicker, understanding what each individual company we work with has their own chain of command, that if you have an issue that needs to get escalated, one of the things we've been successful at is identifying that chain of command so we can get right to an answer and we don't have to wait weeks.
Excellent. Scott, we're going to change scope here. We're going to go back in time. We're going to go into the Wayback Machine. I want you to take us back to that time when you were considering becoming an entrepreneur. You were moving from a salaried position, but you said, "Whoa, there could be something more." What was holding you back from taking that step to starting your own business?
That's an excellent question, and it's absolutely an entire process that I truly had to personally adapt to, and then I saw my wife begin to build a business on her own, and very bright and talented skill set of her own, and I had to wrap my own goals and my own measure of success around what kind of timing would take to be able to replace the income that I'd had, a secure income. And I was in the business I was in for 25 years. I didn't know anything else. I actually went to school for this and had graduated 25 years prior with a degree in radio and television management. And so I didn't know anything else. The insurance was a completely foreign subject, but what I realized is that I could apply all of the skills that I learned in advertising sales and in management directly to what I do now. In some case, you can always make a relationship between subject matter, and so that's what I had to do to be able to convince myself that we could do this together. And once we did, took one step over the line, and we were off and running. You
were in a comfort zone, in a field that you were very familiar with and very comfortable with. You were earning a reasonable to a very good income, but something caused you to jump the chasm to become an entrepreneur. How did you overcome the natural fear that everybody has when they're considering making significant changes like this?
Well, interesting you say that, because mine was done for me. I was fired after 21 years, and not fired for cause, but in media they change furniture on a regular basis. So I wouldn't say I was forced into it. The decision was made a little bit earlier than I had anticipated. So I didn't have a lot of choice. However, given the choice, there was no question I would look back and say, that's the best thing to ever happen to me. In that I was truly able to look at what for some people would be a really negative situation and look at it very fondly, in that it was the thing that, sometimes, no matter where you are on the spiritual level or whatever, sometimes you have to be shoved through the door that you should go through, and that you really shouldn't fear doing that. If there's anything to fear, it's staying the same. That's the thing to fear.
Outstanding, Future Shapers. A value bomb dropped by Scott Welsh today. He says that you look at the positive sides of what seems like a negative situation and understand that the biggest risk is not doing anything. Scott, good job in making sense. Now, we're moving back to the present now, and specifically about Welsh Insurance Services. Describe your ideal client, that perfect customer that you'd be looking for today.
Well, my perfect customer is 64 and a half years old. I've identified them as someone who is retiring at that age because they are Medicare age is 65. And so the people and the folks that we really look for are the people who've had insurance through a different entity. Many times it's an employer, and maybe they've retired early, maybe they've retired at 55 and they've gone through their spouse for insurance until they reach 64. So at 64, they begin thinking about what's my next step for Medicare, and how am I going to do this, and what is all this information I'm receiving in the mail and wading through this, and what is that process? Those folks are ideal for a couple of reasons. Is that we can truly help them with their first step in Medicare, and secondly, they have the opportunity to be with us for many years. And so, even one of the health plans we work with has it down to, people stay with them on average of 11 years. So my best customer is that, we usually don't lose customers unless, unfortunately, they are no longer with us or they move. So one way or another, they're either no longer in the area or they're no longer with us, period. And so we don't want the latter to happen. So they represent the best possible business for us.
Scott, you have a lot of experience in the business world, from working for a radio business to being the leader of an insurance agency. You've seen a lot. You've seen a lot of changes. And I would expect that you would have people that would have counseled you or mentored you over the years to help you become the man that you are today. Tell me, what is the best single piece of advice that you've ever received that you can share with our Future Shapers audience?
The first thing that comes to mind is something I learned when I was fresh out of college and beginning my own journey toward retirement then, and thinking about it. And the best piece of advice that someone ever gave me was very, very simple and straightforward, and I would share this with anybody. And he said, the object of the game is to earn interest, not pay it. And that really shaped where I was going and many of the things I did. And you may say, okay, what that has to do with being an entrepreneur? What have to do? It's because if you're not in a position where you're leveraged out and you're paying a lot for assets, then you have a lot more freedom to do and buy things. So if you begin as early as possible thinking about where your end game is, where your future is, how you want to write your own sort of business, and I not to use this the wrong way, but your business obituary, and that what do you want to have happen with your business when you do you want to go to the beach, or do you want to go out to the desert and play golf? What is it that you want to do? If you can begin a business with that in mind, that's one of the first steps to the 7 steps to success, right? Begin with the end in mind. So having the ability to not pay for things that aren't necessary and save for things that are necessary, I think you can wrap up into that one statement.
Excellent. Scott, another value bomb. He says, be debt-free and become the bank. Excellent advice from Scott. Tell me, we in the Future Shapers are big believers in continuous education, reading. We love to read. Is there a book you might recommend to our Future Shapers audience?
Oh, there are many books, and going back in time, there are some fantastic books that have been around for 30 years. In my business, I can tell you there's a book that I read in 1989 called The Age Wave, and it was a book that really talked about the baby boom generation, in that there are a couple of things to take away from this generation. I'm at the very tail end of it, born in 1964, and the first folks born in baby boom was 1946. When you look at how this generation has shaped the world around us, it's profound.
Right.
And so when you look at business opportunities, you go, okay, this is a generation with the largest accumulation of wealth in the history of our country. It absolutely affects where my business is. So there was a book called The Age Wave by Ken Dykewald.
Okay.
I'll remember that today. And it talked about, Wayne Gretzky's famous statement was, good hockey players go to where the puck is. Great hockey players go to where the puck is going. If you want to know something about where business is going, look at who your audience is. Look at the people that you are trying to sell or service with your product. And that was an eye-opening book for me almost 30 years ago when I read it.
Excellent. The quality doesn't always change. However, life does change consistently. Scott, we at the Future Shapers believe that simple actions and habits over time work together to produce an excellent future. Tell me, what are you doing now to shape your future in a positive way?
Well, the first thing that I do is get good sleep, get up early, exercise. Those are 3 habits that have really nothing to do with business, but everything to do with how I conduct business and how we do it. If you can't be successful if you sleep through all of your opportunities, and you have to be ready to go. Plan your day ahead of time, the old adage is plan your work and work your plan. That's probably maybe one of the oldest pieces of advice available to you, but I think those are some good habits. Form those things. Take stock in what you are doing. Take personal stock in yourself annually and semi-annually. Refine your business plan. Know that you and your business are constant work in progress, and that you've got to refine what you're doing to see if you're receiving and or getting to your goals.
Excellent advice. Another value bomb dropped by Scott Welsh today. He believes in exercise, planning, and continuous execution on a daily basis to become the best Scott Welsh, having the best business, delivering the highest quality value to clients. And that is the secret of success. Is that okay?
I think you summed it up well.
Woohoo! Scott, pivoting a little bit, we at Future Shapers believe that our nation is at a tipping point, and that we as citizens must shape our nation's future in a positive direction. Tell me, Scott, what is America to you?
Well, it's a lot of things. I think America is an amalgam of so many different things. It truly is a melting pot of the world, and America has been able to both be a guardian of good Western democratic values, as well as being a leader in so many different areas in science and technology and manufacturing. And in terms of the business America, I think we have an opportunity for people who still want to work. For people who don't feel that they are entitled to this great life that was built for us by our predecessors 250 years ago. And I think that if you're willing to continue to go out and hustle every day, that America absolutely holds great things. If you feel entitled to having things given to you, and that you should get a free education, that your entitlement to income and all of those things is just that, as an entitlement, then that's not the America that I hold true. I think America is absolutely the land of opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to go and make your own things happen, and for you to be able to drive your own career and your own lifestyle in the manner that when you're willing to work for it.
Excellent. America, the land of opportunity. Thank you, Scott, for sharing. And thank you for being a guest on Shaping the Future podcast. Please tell our listeners, Scott, how they can contact you and what benefit they might receive when they do contact you.
Well, here's why to contact us. Not everybody is on Medicare, even though 10,000 people are turning 65 every day in America, and 30% of them live in California. But everybody knows somebody who has Medicare, and or it could be mother, father, grandparents, uncle, neighbor, somebody. Everybody knows somebody. Where we come in, and that we are completely free of charge service, a zero cost service that helps people unlock the complexity of Medicare health plans and what to do when they retire with their health insurance. Some companies are taken care of, and some people, very few people, have lifetime insurance through their companies, no matter what level of service that they were involved in. So everybody needs some help somewhere. It's 100%. And so we help unlock that. So if you'd like to contact us, you can go to our website, which is welshadvantage.com, and that's WELSH advantage.com, and that'll tell you a little bit more about what we do. Also, my number is 909-648 888-888-1991. And you can contact me 7 days a week if you have a question, you have a family member with a question about our services.
Excellent. Scott, thank you for sharing with us. Faithful Future Shaper listeners, I encourage you to reach out to Scott Welsh. If you're at that right age and you have those concerns about your future health insurance or health care, reach out to Scott. He's an excellent man. Future Shapers, thank you for joining us for this episode. Be ready for the next one. It'll be right around the corner. Thank you again.
Thank you for joining this episode of Shaping the Future podcast. We leave you, Future Shapers, with this challenge. Act boldly today to shape your future, because if you don't, it will absolutely be shaped for you.